Today we've got an update on our inexpensive sub $2,000 Yamaha V-Star 1100. Last you saw this bike, we had it at my buddy Andy's shop where we were going through the bike to see what was good and what was bad on it. And there's a lot of good. As he would put it, whoever had this bike at some point, they loved it, they took care of it, and put some effort into it. But there was some bad as well. And really the worst thing about this bike was that the tires were hovering around 6 psi. So that was part of the reason that on the first run up and down the road, it really did not ride very well, didn't steer very well, didn't corner very well. And the other thing was that it wasn't running too happy. Seemed like the carbs were getting clogged up. And in today's video, we're going to show you that that's fixed, because initially we'll walk around the bike a little bit and then I'm going to take it on a ride. But from a visual standpoint, the main thing that you might notice is that the windshield's gone, the big fat back seat is gone, the crash bars are gone, the speakers that were up here on the handlebars are gone. And while some of you may miss those components because they are nice, they can be useful on longer trips, it's to the bike's benefit overall, because the windshield that was on the front of this bike and the rest of the aftermarket parts that were on it were cheap aftermarket pieces. And you can see right here where that windshield actually damaged this front fork cover. Now, Andy, who was helping me with this bike and working on it a little bit, told me he's seen several of those windshields even come loose down the road because the way that it was mounted to the front end of this bike is not super secure. And he's even seen that cause accidents in the past. Now, back in the day, Yamaha did make some similar components to what this bike had on it, but they were more expensive. Whoever had put those components on this bike that it had when we bought it, they were not the nice, genuine Yamaha parts. They were cheap knockoffs. And because of that, we wanted to get some of that stuff off the bike. Those speakers that were on the handlebars as well were shockingly heavy. When Andy pulled those speakers off of the bike, they must have weighed 3, 4, even 5 pounds each. And that amount of weight being on your handlebars is also going to have an impact on the way that the motorcycle steers. So that's gone. The big crash bars around the front are gone. And at the moment, we still have all these parts. We haven't thrown them away. We haven't gotten rid of them. At the moment, we've got the back seat, the passenger seat off, just to test how we feel about it and how it looks, because that original passenger seat's pretty big and chunky. And I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you know any company that makes a decent passenger seat we could place here that's maybe a little slimmer and lower profile. Not that this bike is meant to be exceedingly slim and low profile, but we'd like something that's not quite as chunky as that passenger seat that was on this motorcycle. So now the bike is stripped down. Andy also went through the carbs, pulled them, cleaned out the jets, tweaked the tuning a little bit. If we were to get a jet kit for this motorcycle to match these aftermarket pipes, it would run even happier. But I can go ahead and kick the bike on so that you can hear how it sounds, because last I had ridden this bike, it was popping and banging, and not in a good way. It was popping and banging in a way that meant it was not running well, because just sitting there idling, it did not sound good. Now comes right to life, and it's got a nice snappy throttle. So there's still more that we could do with the tuning on this motorcycle, but at the moment it's running way happier than it was before. And that means that we can start to ride it and get a feel for this motorcycle to decide if we want to throw some more parts on it. And without further ado, let's get the bike on the road.
Let's talk about the biggest change in this bike though, and that's the way that it rides and the way that it's running now, because Andy got this bike way happier than it used to be. He said that one of the 2 carbs on this motor was barely doing its job, so the bike was running very lean, and there's still more refinement that could be done if we got an entire jet kit and got it running perfectly with this new exhaust, not new exhaust, but aftermarket exhaust at least. Then it would be even happier. But it's a night and day difference now than when we first rode this motorcycle. Huge improvement. Also, the fact that the tires have air in them makes a big difference too. Now, this motorcycle's still a big couch of a bike. It's still very soft and plush. Even going over the dirt road here, it feels pretty smooth. But it actually wants to handle, and the front end isn't shimmying. I say it wants to handle. It wants to handle a lot better than it did. It's still, again, a big couch of a motorcycle. But this is an awesome bike, and it does exactly what you want it to. It lets you kick back a little bit, relax, and it makes you feel like you own the road. This is a super fun motorcycle and way more fun to ride after just a little bit of good treatment and maintenance. And it's still an under $2,000 cruiser bike. Now that we're on the pavement, we'll drop a gear and let you hear it. Yeah, it's a loud bike. These pipes don't do any mufflers. It's not a muffler, it's an exhaust. So the motorcycle makes tons of noise. It's maybe a bit more than I would want if this were my personal bike, but at the same time, it's not necessarily worth it to us to go buy an aftermarket exhaust system for it, because the point of this motorcycle is to try and keep it as affordable as possible. That's one of the cooler things about it. And now that it's riding well, we can actually use it a little bit. And I want to throw it out to everybody watching to let me know in the comments what you would like to see us do with this motorcycle. Now that it's tuned up and running correctly, it does actually feel like an 1100. Before, it felt like a 600-pound 750. Now it feels like a 600-pound 1100. So it's still not an incredibly fast bike, but it's boatloads happier than it used to be. It sounds pretty awesome. And the brakes still need a little bit of work, I will admit. So we haven't yet done tires, which is a bit of a safety concern, and the rear brake pads need to be done as well. But initially we wanted to get the motorcycle running well and ride it a little bit so that we could see the kind of condition that it's in and how much money we want to pour into it. Because I've made the mistake before of buying a bike, buying a boatload of parts, spending a bunch of money, and then finding out that the bike really wasn't worth doing all that. So now that we're seeing how it runs when it's fixed up and just a tiny little bit of maintenance and tuning and improvement, we're seeing that this is a motorcycle that's very likely worth pouring the money into getting some tires, obviously doing the rear brake pads, but we would want to do that at the same time as getting the rear tire on. So that's going to be the next steps for this motorcycle. But in the meantime, still willing to ride it. This is a pretty solid machine. And as always, I want to say a thanks to Scott and the team over at Rider Justice. Without them, these videos wouldn't be possible. So if you're ever in an incident, either on 2 wheels or 4, make sure you call Scott first, because they are the people to work with. They're awesome. Now, that's all for this video. Like I said, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see us do with this bike, because so far we haven't got to ride it that much, and whatever you drop in the comments below gives me an excuse to get out on this bike again and spend more time with it. So thanks everybody for watching. Enjoy the rest of the riding season, as I will, and we'll see you next time.